speak with the former chairman of the British Medical Association, Dr. Chaand Nagpaul, who's joining us now. Good afternoon to you. The medical profession somewhat will be under the spotlight on this a little bit. Of course, the headline today is that somebody has been found guilty of horrendous murders of children, babies in this case, and attempted murders as well, Chaand. This is, of course, one of the worst cases of its kind, if not the worst case we've ever seen. But questions will be asked about the medical profession, particularly procedures within hospitals. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. First of all, I must say that our thoughts and sympathies must be with the parents and families of those who have lost babies in this most brutal manner. As a doctor, I can say that, you know, we have seen something like this before when we had Harold Shipman, you might remember, who was a serial murderer, injecting lethal doses of drugs to many of his patients. Now, it's really important to emphasize at the outset that this is a reflection of people, a very rare event where a nurse who is a serial killer, a murderer, who happens to be a nurse. There are murderers in every sector of society, and this in no way should undermine the fact that the nursing profession is a highly trusted profession where nurses keep people alive. They don't diminish people's lives and they don't kill people. And I really do believe and hope that the public will understand that, and I'm sure they will. So this is someone who is a murderer who happened to be a nurse. You know, I absolutely agree with you that this is a time when we now will need to have the government, I'm sure, and the authorities will, I'm sure, want to do a very full-scale investigation to try and understand if anything could have been done to prevent these actions, these grotesque actions occurring, and we need to await that.
Would it be fair to say, though, that the medical profession has been quite bad at learning from mistakes, that often there is almost a God complex that exists in that world where when errors do take place, and sadly it is life and death that we're often dealing with in your world, that it's been very slow to act. And in this case, it appears there were some red flags, and despite those, there was still a protracted process where this woman remained in employment.
I think we do need to await a proper investigation, and certainly within the medical profession, after Harold Shipman was found to be a murderer, there have been many changes in the medical profession and monitoring doctors to make sure that any actions that may be harming patients are picked up early on. In fact, every year, doctors have to sign a statement to say that they're not aware of any of their colleagues causing harm to others of any type. So there are major changes have taken place. But again, I want to reiterate that this, I genuinely believe, and I think most will also agree, happens to be someone who is a murderer and was a nurse. It's not a reflection of the nursing profession. It's not a reflection.
And you're right. I think most people would acknowledge that. But of course, there are going to be parents who will be devastated to think that the person that was responsible for the death of their baby remained in employment with access to a children's ward after these incidents other incidents had taken place. It would be extraordinary to not consider that to be a huge area of concern. And, you know, we can't let the medical profession or the hospital in this case, I appreciate you don't speak for either in that capacity, you have a former role, but naturally those questions are going to be asked and there will be an inquiry that will reflect those questions.
You're absolutely right. And it's absolutely the moral and the right thing to do is to properly investigate and have a full inquiry to understand and identify any gaps in actions being taken, any shortcomings, because ultimately what we want to do is make sure these episodes become never events as far as we can. And if there have been any shortcomings or any lessons to be learned, they need to be addressed and they need to be taken forward, not just in terms of this particular case, but of course, moving forwards for the entire nursing and medical profession. So absolutely, that does need to happen. And I think, there's no doubt that is the important imperative that needs to come out of this verdict today.
Thank you, Dr. Chaand Nagpaul, who is the former chair of the British Medical Association.